Hello friends, myself Harpreet Today, welcome to Anthropology and Tutorial. Today we will discuss what are the unique features of anthropology, scope of anthropology, right? Let's begin with the lecture. What are the unique features of anthropology? What are the features which make the anthropology a unique subject? What are the distinct features by which anthropology is totally different from other disciplines? So we will discuss in this video. In first point, emphasize on insider's view. What does it mean? There are two approaches which anthropologists use. In anthropology, folklorist and social and behavioral sciences, emic and ethic refers to two kinds of field research done and viewpoint obtained. Emic from within the social group, from the perspective of the subject, and ethic from the outside, from the perspective of anthropologists. So, in brief, the emic approach investigates how local people think, how they perceive and categorize the world, how they imagine the thing and explain it. So, for example, to gain the emic perception on the culture means to view the world as a member of that culture view it. For example, if you were born and brought up in a particular culture, then you have socialized to the emic perspective of that culture, right? How people perceive and categorize the world. Emic perspective and interpretations are those existing within a culture that are determined by a local custom, meanings and beliefs, and best described by folk of that culture. And the ones anthropologists interested in the research field, he attempt to understand the social phenomena from the research subject point of view, not from his own point of view. He will research in the fieldwork according to the subject's point of view, what the subject think, interpretation for his own culture, for his world. Then he understands the interpretation of the subject, then analyze the result and conclude the result and collect the data according to the subject's point of view. That is emic approach, right? What is ethic approach? It's scientist oriented approach. Shift the focus from the local observation, categories, explanations and interpretations to those of the anthropologist. What they're doing, interpreted their culture by participating in their culture, right? What the interpretations, thinking for culture of anthropologists. What the anthropologists think about that particular culture is a ethic perception, right? It is a different from emic perceptive. In ethic perceptive, the researchers look at the research fieldwork objectively from a distance. He does not think, imagine, participate and understand by subject point of view. His own perception about the culture to whom he want to study is a ethic perception. So these two difference between the approaches which are used by the anthropologists in their studies. Next, its method of research. What method they are used for his research? Anthropologists use number of methods, but they are more concerned to use a qualitative method, not a quantitative method. If he focus on a field work, then he will only focus the quality, not the quantity. Then the cultural anthropologists conduct study of living people, most often by visiting and living among a particular people for an extended period of time, usually a year or a longer, so that they can collect data qualitatively, not a quantitatively. If he has a target to collect data from 600 people, then he will collect data from 600 people only, not from more than that, because he focus on a quality of a. If he will not able to collect data within his time period, then he can extend his field work so that he can get a good result from his research, right? And there are other methodologies that anthropologists are used. That is genealogical method. This method is also useful in the field work by learning the kinship, family, marriage pattern of a group. It is a basic method used to help the anthropologist to understand the social relationships and history, right? Through genealogical method, they can understand the gotra of that particular group and social relationship of that particular group by this genealogical method, right? And he also need a informant is that individual, usually someone with a lots of knowledge about the group living studied, so that he can collect data in their field work easily. So he need a informant also. So these some methods they are used in their field work, and they usually do study in a depth, in a brief manner. They study in the every corner, from every aspect of human, so that they can conclude the result in a brief manner. So there are number of ethnographers and ethnologists are working in this field. Like ethnologists are more interested to understand the similarities and differences among the culture. This can help us to understand the processes of change and adaptation in a human culture. So, and the ethnographers are usually study culture. They are not interested to study the similarities and differences between the culture. So these two differences between the two cultures. So these methods the anthropologists use while while research in a particular group or a particular society or a particular topic. So which make the anthropology unique subject, right? And there are number of other distinct approaches which make the anthropology unique. What are that? Anthropology is a holistic study. I already told you. Anthropologists study human in totality. He understands the things in a total manner, like study one aspect of ways of life of a group of people by relating it to the other complex related aspects of life. So in holistic way, he study the things. Like a good way to emphasize its broad scope is to say that anthropologists are interested in all human beings, whether a living or a dead, primitive or a civilized, and they are interested in many aspects of human, including their smetoscopy or anthropometry, so that they can conclude the result from every corner. Because there are number of subfields which are in the anthropology which help to understand the society or an individual from every aspect. Like if I want to study one particular person and I want to collect data from one particular person who belongs to one particular society to whom I want to study, then if I am a physical anthropologist, I want to measure the I use an anthropometric methodology by measuring their body, and then after that I also ask some other questions in which are you living in the family, a nuclear family or a joint family? What is the income status of your family? How many children in your family? So from every aspect I ask question from them. So in this way anthropologists work in his field. So that which make the anthropology unique. So that's why anthropology is a holistic study. For example, if I take the example of physical anthropology, in living point of view, I want to study the plain area and hilly area people, how they are living, what are the differences and similarities between the two communities, what are the differences in their living and food they eat, what kind of dresses they wear, they're living in a nuclear family or a joint family, are they dependent on agriculture or on a job, how much hard work they do. In hilly area and plain people, what are the morphological and physiological changes between the two people? So what are that? If I'll take example of non-living point of view, then how man came on earth, then how the environment, food availability, ways of living responsible to vary the changes between the human. What are the species which are similar to the human? Then I'll explain in the last slide that Australopithecus to the Homo sapiens journey. I was explained in detail in that video. So from every aspect, then he studied the climate, time period or species, food. There are number of methodologies they are using in their field work, and by isotopic method they can judge the food, which type of food they were eat in that time period. So they study in a detail, in a brief manner, which that's why anthropology is a holistic study. So another anthropology is a relativistic. What does it mean? Anthropology tries to study and explain a certain belief, practices or institution of a group of people in its own context. It does not make value judgment, declaring that belief or a practice is a good or a bad, is a beneficial for society or a non-beneficial for a society. So that's which make the anthropology unique. So anthropology is a comparative study. What does it mean? Comparative. Comparative means if I'll take example of ethnologists, then ethnologists are more interested to collect data from society in which he want to study and culture. However, ethnologists are concerning to study differences and similarities between the people, either of past or a present, either of two society of present time or a past time. So if in a physical anthropological point of view, anthropologists are interested to study the two states or two countries or two continent ways of living, body physiological, morphological and income status development and development, and what the technology they are using which make that particular country unique, what are the status of that particular country. So all the things are studied by the anthropologist. So anthropologists study in a comparative manner, right? So these are the approaches which anthropologists use in their field work or in their study, which make the anthropology a unique subject. So next, what are the scopes of anthropology? There are a number of organizations like ICER, ICMR, WHO, UGC, UIN, ICEF, UNESCO, etc. releasing project in which anthropologists can do job according to their subfield, right? And there are numerous organizations which are specially hired to the anthropologist for research purposes or data collection or for other things. So they specially hire to the anthropologist, so they can do in these organizations like Archaeological Survey of India, Anthropological Survey of India. These organizations are specially hired to the anthropologists for this work, because anthropologists have a vast knowledge about everything, because he thinks from every corner, from every perspective, like either a sociological, philosophical, then psychological, biophysiological, morphological, genetical, or from other point. Then that's why they specially hire to the anthropologists for this, because they are more active in data collection, and they are also active in making questionnaire, because they have a vast knowledge about everything, because they are interested in study the human being. So that's why they specially hire to the anthropologists for this. Then students who are post-graduated in the subjects also do job as a research investigator in some educational institutes like PGI, Punjab University, Delhi University, and if I take example of some places like Northeast India, there are a number of anthropologists who are working in the tribal area, and there are vast scope of anthropology in that area also. And social anthropologists are more interested to study to the tribal people. Even physical anthropologists are also working there, because they are interesting to study the whole group of that particular society. So that's why anthropologists are working there. There are many public and government industries like textile industry, designing industry, and they specially hire to the anthropologist for measurement purposes, because anthropologists are one who have a knowledge of special landmarks in human body which help to make standard dress. For example, if one industry who wants to manufacture one dress, and first of all, every industry make a standard of a standard dress which can be fit for every person. So that's why they specially hire to the anthropologist for for standard dress, because for making a standard dress, there are special landmarks by which they can measure the things and make the dress, so that it can be fit for every person. So that's why they specially hire to the anthropologists for it. And there are numerous games are organized on an international and national level, where anthropologists are hired for measurement purposes. Particular standards, smatoscopic variables should be given for a particular game in which athletes can participate. If I'll take example of a good height person can participate in a basketball and gymnastics. So anthropologists are working in this field also, especially physical anthropologists. And cultural anthropologists are more interested to study the problems and issues of a particular society or a particular either civilized or uncivilized, through which they collect data from them and try to overcome the problem of that particular society. So in this field anthropologists are working, and anthropologists can start their career in different sectors like colleges, universities, NGOs, health and human services. So in these sectors anthropologists are working, and there are number of forensics laboratories where labs anthropologists have worked. Forensics anthropologists are investigation of human skeleton remains for medical and legal purposes. Or forensic anthropologists work often with other forensic specialists in aiding criminal investigation, and they are attempt to determine the gender, age at death, ancestral background and structure of the disease individual. And using this knowledge, forensic anthropologists identify crash victims, war casualties, homicide victims and skeleton remains in unmarked graves, right? So in this sector anthropologists are working, and this is the scope of anthropology. Now anthropologists work in these subfields of anthropology. So we know that there are 4 types of anthropology. There are 4 subfields of anthropology, that are physical anthropology, linguistic anthropology, sociocultural anthropology and archaeology, right? Then in physical anthropology is a branch of anthropology most closely related to natural science, particularly biology. It studies the biological dimension of human beings, including in physical variation between the contemporary population or a biology and behavior of non-human primates. So physical anthropology is further divided into many fields like a paleoanthropology, primatology and kin anthropology, medical anthropology, twin anthropology, then neuroanthropology, human osteology, physiological anthropology, dermatographic, nutritional anthropology, environmental anthropology, forensics anthropology. So there are a number of subdivision of physical anthropology, but here I am just give a overview. I'll explain in detail in next video when I'll explain the branches of anthropology, right? So in human evolution, I already explained in the last lecture. In paleoanthropology, an interesting search of fossil remains from prehistoric time period like Australopithecus, then to the trace development or outstanding of human physical, social and cultural characteristics from Australopithecus to Homo sapiens in which climate they were lived, in which social and political culture they are living in a which culture, they are living in a caves or other area, and they are living in a family or alone. So these all the things are studied by the anthropologists in a paleoanthropology, which is branch of human evolution, right? And primatology is also a part of a human evolution, where biology and the study of the biology and behavior of primates, that is the animal that most closely resemble to the human beings in terms of physiological and anatomical structure, is an important field in physical anthropology, by which we can estimate the resemblance and similarities and differences of a human with apes. So this is also very important subfield in anthropology. Then linguistic anthropology. In a linguistic anthropology is a scientific study of language, right? historical modern linguistics are especially interested in whether all human language share any universal common feature. Some recent work suggests that human infants are born with knowledge of a set of generalized rules that allow them to discover the specific rules of language around them, to formulate new sentences by applying these rules. So linguistic anthropology, the study of speech and language with the context of anthropology, right? So it is a study of language as a cultural resource and speaking as a cultural perspective. So linguistic anthropology focuses on unwritten languages, those languages which have no form of writing, languages used by contemporary people of the non-Western society, or concerned with the relation between language and other aspects of human behavior and thoughts. So they describe and analyze a language so far known to linguistic science. So this is a linguistic anthropology. And socio-culture anthropology. In socio-culture anthropology, concerned with the social and cultural dimension of a living people, right? And with the description and analysis of people's lives and traditions. Socio-culture anthropology study the social, symbolic and non-material and material lives of contemporary and historically recent human society, taking the concept of social central to its goal. So there are two types of culture anthropology, that are ethnographer and ethnologist, study the living people most often by visiting and living among a particular people and collect data by participate with that society and study and describe the result of their investigation in the form of book and article. So the ethnographers are more interested to study to understand the similarities and differences between the two societies, either belong to past or a present. So there are many specialized fields of study in a social and cultural anthropology. Some are included in anthropology of art, medical anthropology, urban economic anthropology, political anthropology, development anthropology, anthropology of religion, legal anthropology, demographic anthropology. So there are a number of socio-cultural anthropology. So we will discuss these things in a brief in the next video when I'll explain the branches of anthropology, right? So next is archaeology. In archaeology, study the ways of the past people by analyze the physical remains they left behind. Artifacts are the material remains of human societies. Archaeologists are also eco-facts, the footprints on the ecology by the past society. This helps to reveal the way of human society interacting with the social ecosystem. Tool, ornament, pottery, animal bones, human skeleton material analyze how people live in the distant past and reconstruct the ways of life of the past people. So archaeological anthropologists are more concerned, and they have three main goals, that are classifying and sequence the material culture, then reconstruct the ancient way of life, and explain and delineating cultural processes. By they have three main goals by which they can explain and analyze the ways of life of the past people by these ornaments or artifacts or ecofacts